Hello and welcome to Profiles in Risk. This is your host, Tony Cañas, recording in early January 2022. And today I have with me David Kelly, the founder and architect at Bobtrak Incorporated. And Bobtrak, that's Bobtrak. Don't make the mistake that I made 10 minutes ago when I was trying to research the company before recording, where I went to Bobtrak with CK. And as of right now, it is a Chinese holding page where they're trying to sell you the domain. And I'm like, who am I interviewing here? So David, thank you for joining me today. How are you doing?
Thank you for having me, Tony. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. And we connected at InsurTech Connect, although David was telling me earlier that he didn't actually manage to get in front of me at InsurTech Connect. So I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I am never not talking to somebody at a conference. So come and interrupt. I've had many people go like, "Oh, you were never you were never not busy." I'm like, come and interrupt. Otherwise, we won't get to chat. So David, we always give the chance to give the elevator pitch. So what is Bobtrak?
Well, the Bob and Bobtrak stands for Book of Business. There's nobody named Bob in the company. And it was supposed to be TRACK, but there was a farm implement company that had that domain when I was getting ready to steal this one. So that's why we're TRAK. But it came out of me being what's a solution architect, a problem solver in the incentive compensation management space, where we did commission and bonus software. And my job was to make a generic product work for every customer in every industry, solve every problem. And of course, it doesn't want to do that. So you have to do some magic. And every time we did an insurance carrier or a large broker, tried to replace their commission system, the magic that was missing was the book of business tracking. We couldn't figure out which agent was servicing the policy, and we couldn't figure out what the value of that relationship was across time.
And you would think that this is a crucial piece.
It is the heart of distribution. But it turns out you pull, Conglomco Insurance off their mainframe system, and that's the functionality we couldn't replace. So I'd end up building a $3 to $5 million data preprocessor to move the data out of their systems into our system, and it would do 90% of the heavy lifting. And then you apply this number to a rate table and say, okay, your commission's $100. But all that stuff leading up to putting it on the rate table is where the pain was. And after you do this a dozen, 2 dozen times, you say somebody should build this. Because I kept asking the carriers, well, why don't you buy a system to do this? And well, there isn't one. I'm like, that's insane. So at any rate, I've been very focused on building a carrier product, top down, who's servicing the policies, what are the contracts they're on, what do we know about the customer, what do we know about, the way they pay commissions and bonuses and so on. And a few months ago, I was talking to an agency guy, and he said, well, I need that for my agency. And I'm like, well, that's insane. It's software. You need a computer. You can't just run software. What the hell are you doing? And he said, okay, I got 3 problems. I can't forecast revenue. I can't reconcile the commissions I get from the carriers, and I can't get a holistic view of my customers, because if they're on 3 or 4 different carriers, I don't have a single report that shows them. I said, oh, that's easy. I can fix that. So I sort of took a side path and started building that. And it turned out, of course, to be a lot harder than I thought it would, but that's how the world works. But, and I thought it was just a throwaway. I didn't think anybody else would be interested in it. But everybody I talked to is like, oh, I can't do that stuff. My agency management system doesn't give me all that. I'm like, oh, you mean this is useful? Who knew? So I've been very focused for the last few months on building out this agency broker product. It's basically a bridge between your agency management, your general ledger, your CRM systems, because none of them do the whole job. This is just it doesn't replace anything. It just sort of sits in the middle and gives you a better view into your business, your data, who your customers are, what kind of money you can expect to be collecting this month, things like that. So it's kind of the flip of the carrier product. If the data is bad at the top, which it is, just based on experience, it's horrible. what gets down to the carriers or the agencies and the agents is going to be bad as well. And so this is actually, I don't know, if you're a geek, it's sort of fun to figure out, how can I open things up so that you can actually run your business, not just sell insurance. So that's, Bobtrak SMB is the little product, and the carrier product is Bobtrak Enterprise, and I need to build that still. But right now, literally this week, I've got my first customer going live on the agency broker product. And anybody who happens to be listening might be curious about getting onto that, or at least talking to me about it. I want more information about what the pain points are. I want people to give me insights into what I should be building, and I can offer you a great deal on the product if you help me out that way. I know the owner.
If you help me build it, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Help me understand so I love the fact that you're not one of those insurtechs that's a tech guy with a tech, with a hammer looking for an insurance nail, right? Which and we're seeing less and less of those. That was more like the insurtech 1.0. But you've been working on this for a good while, going back to late 2014, early 2015. So you were one of the very, very early insurtechs in one way or another.
Yeah, if I were better at running businesses and stuff, you'd have heard of me by now. But I'm still working out the details of how do you actually do this. So that's where we are today.
Okay, so on the agency side,
mm-hmm.
Going live with the first agency, and you built it in a matter of a few months. So it's currently built on top of which agency management system?
That's the thing that I'm doing that I think is interesting, is that the product is the product, but I'm building uploaders so that you can pull out of system 1, system 2, system 3. I don't want to throw any names out here, but you know them all. Apparently, so they're all equally bad. So
that's what I hear in general. Yeah. So you're building the bridges to all the major AMS systems, and there's really like 3 of them that dominate the market, 2 or 3 of 3 of them. Yeah, they're not hard to figure out who they are.
Right.
And on the carrier side, so you've built that for carriers in the past. Are there a couple of clients that are live with Bobtrak that are carriers?
I wish I could say yes. I'm still looking for the first guinea pig. It's a huge undertaking. It's not something that they can just say, okay,
The carrier side is so much more complicated. The systems
are
so much older.
Yeah, you got 5 different mainframe systems and 8 different other systems, and they don't talk to each other. So what I'm trying to do is build it in such a way that, again, it doesn't replace anything. It doesn't replace the only thing it would replace would be the commission system, because I also calculate commissions in that. But essentially it sits on top and it pulls data from everywhere, brings it together. And that's actually the business value of the carrier product, is that your entire distribution channel is now in one database, and everything is normalized, and a dollar equals a dollar and a date equals a date. And now you can actually run some analytics on it and figure out who your customers are. And that's really been the selling point of this thing so far. The fact that COVID came along 2 years ago and kind of screwed up my selling efforts, not appreciated. But that was the message I was going out with right before we had lockdown, and people were starting to say, oh, okay, I get it. That's really cool. So yay. I hope they continue to get it, but I'm still looking for the first customer on that.
And kind of similar story, hey customer, I've done it before. Help me understand how you need it, and you'll help shape the product in such a way that'll be a great fit for you.
And in return, you get a great price. Once it's working, I don't have to discount it. Until it's working, I do.
Makes sense. On the website, so it's the tagline is the AI engine for distribution channel management. So we've talked a lot about how it plays with distribution, whether you're the distribution or you're the carrier that uses a brokerage for distribution. What's the AI piece, or what's
Well,
the
the
plan
AI
for the
piece,
AI piece?
yeah, the plan for the AI piece is again what I was saying before about now we've got all of your data together. I mean, you know, I watch a lot of webinars and webcasts and all that kind of nonsense, and everybody's talking about analytics. Everybody wants to get into it, rightly, because you know that's how you're going to move the business forward. But the problem is, if you know the systems, you know that it's almost impossible to get data out of them in a way that you can use. And so while there are a ton of people who say, we'll do your analytics, just bring us the data, I'm kind of like, well, you know, any idiot can do that. Somebody's got to get the data. And that's really the piece I had. I will have an AI engine sitting on top of it, unless I run into an analytics company that wants to partner and they want to run the analytics on it, but I'll be bringing them the data. They don't have to do a 3-year project to figure out what the data looks like. It'll be there and they'll be ready to go. So.
Okay. What's the revenue model like? And I realize those are radically different for the broker side than for the carrier side.
Very much so. Broker side is just monthly subscription, and it's a sliding scale based on the number of agents you've got and the number of policies you're administering. And it's just because that uses more resources on my end if I'm hosting it, but it would be cloud-based, obviously. The carrier side, I'm going to build the same product. It can be hosted, and that would be a subscription model, but there are a lot of, you know, small carriers in the Midwest who aren't ready to get off their systems and send the data up to that cloud thing. So I will also offer it on premise. You know, just you buy the software, you own it, you install it, and that would be, you know, whatever the cost is plus 18% a year for maintenance and all that kind of stuff, and you own the software. But in general, hosting is where it's at. So that's what I intend to be doing for the most part. But the thing that I'm very sensitive to is that, you know, this is a financial application. Dollars are changing hands every time I run it, right? You know, we're figuring out commissions and bonuses. I'm not going to do one of these, you know, like Salesforce or what have you. Hey, we're upgrading Salesforce over the weekend, you know, try and stay off the system for 2 hours on Saturday night or whatever. Most of the carriers I've seen will not allow that. They're going to want to be able to test it and make sure that they get the same answer before they upgrade as they did after, and so on. So it will be your own instance of Bobtrak, whether I'm hosting it or whether it's in your data center.
Okay. And given that you're fairly early on in the process, are you open to external investors, whether that's angel investors or?
Yes, please.
Okay,
yeah, so I would dearly love some investment. That would make it a lot easier and faster than having me try and figure out, okay, you know, it's like, you know, it's building software is like IKEA. I'd rather find people who are good at it than have me do it. But, you know, it's like, you know, I'm still trying to figure out what to do this.
Okay, so investors who listen to the show, or venture capital listens to the show, here's an opportunity for something that where the proof of concept comes internally, comes from somebody that saw the problem in existence in multiple places within the industry, not a tech toy looking for an insurance nail. And hopefully at this point, most of the investors that are playing the insurance space have learned the lesson that insurance is,
well, let's hope.
is different, and you really need an understanding of insurance to do it. So we talked a little bit about how you came up with the idea, basically, and I see that you spent a good amount of time at SAP, and then did some consulting. And then ended up with Merced Systems. Is Merced, what kind of systems do they do?
Well, their bread and butter business is call center management. So, the person you call up to change your policy, for example, is probably sitting in a warehouse someplace in the Midwest, and that's what they do metrics on. They bought an incentive comp product because they thought it would be easy, and they just bolt that onto their product, and it turns out incentive comp is about 80 times larger than what they were doing. So they were essentially bolting an elephant onto a mouse, and they weren't super thrilled with the industry. They didn't like it. And I kept trying to explain to them, yeah, everything is screwed up. I mean, everything you do in incentive comp is going to be messed up, and the data is hard and the projects are hard. So that has, for better or worse, been my life since the late 90s. But, nobody does incentive comp because it's fun. We just do it because, people are screaming and crying because the job is so hard. So, I came out of two different vendors and a couple of different system integrators in the incentive comp space, but every time we did insurance, it was like dragged back to what Bobtrak was going to turn into.
So basically, the majority of your experience was in one or another incentive comp solution, but nobody had a solution specifically for insurance.
Right. Well, and depending on how you sell it, oh, sure, our product works fine for insurance, as long as you do the Bobtrak piece, the 90% in front of the incentive comp system, it works like a charm. But if you don't do that, then all of a sudden, lives and careers are being lost on this project because it turns out it's really complicated. So, I mean, that's really the secret sauce in Bobtrak, is I've had to do it a dozen times, not because, I'm smarter than anybody else. It's just I've seen all the problems and I've heard all the words. I know what they mean. So I'm not starting from a blank sheet.
Yeah, you've done it within the crazy world that is insurance.
Yes, I've done it in insurance.
And it really is amazing that that nobody had focused on that before, because it is the key where the rubber meets the road when it comes to your distribution.
Yeah, I've first few trade shows I went to, I'd find myself sitting next to a big core system vendor and a big core system vendor on either side, and I'm afraid they're going to take me out and beat me up and leave me in the dumpster or something. But they, I kept asking, well, what do you guys do for a book of business solution? They said, well, we don't do it. And I'm like, well, how can you not? And they say, we just don't talk about the things that we don't do. So if a customer asks for it, we'll figure out something. But there are only a couple of core system vendors who even claim to have the tracking of which agent is servicing the policy, but they don't have the value across time piece that's so critical. Because insurance commissions are sometimes it's just the single business event, but sometimes it's rolling 12 months or annualization or retention. How many policies that were in effect a year ago are still in effect today? Well, you can't get that from a single check coming in for somebody's premium. It's a really complicated set of processing to figure out what the value of that relationship is. Tracking which agent is servicing the policy, you can kind of force CRM to do it, but doing the processing, doing the value and the analytics, that's stuff that there aren't any systems to do it, which just, I was shocked too. I thought, and even when I finally left incentive comp and said, okay, I'm going to do Bobtrak, I kept figuring, okay, tomorrow I'm going to open Yahoo News and there's going to be, a huge incentive, a huge book of business vendor. And it's like every day it's, well, nobody yet. So I'm still in the lead. But to me, it just seems like, well, why wouldn't you solve this problem?
What it makes perfect sense. It makes absolute perfect sense. David, thank you so much. It's been very interesting. Yeah, I never thought about it, but it passes the smell test with me. It makes sense that this is a big deal. I do know, as a former sales manager for two different carriers, my visibility into my agent's production was definitely not great. And somehow their commission got paid, but I have heard that the complaint from brokers and even large brokers that it's a pain to keep track of. and a pain to handle.
Well, the guy who got me started on this said, we'll sometimes have a deal where, the carrier will call us and say, all new policies this month will pay at 15% instead of 12. And he said, okay, cool. And the check comes in for 12%. They don't have any way of really knowing that it wasn't what it was supposed to be. They don't have any way of knowing what they should have been paid. And Bobtrak on both ends would help take care of that problem. This guy thinks there's one carrier who probably owes him $100,000 over the last 10 years, and he figures if he can just find 50,000 of it, he'll write it off if he can just get 50. So yeah, the data's lousy everywhere, and that is a great opportunity for an investment in InsurTech. Try and make the data a little better.
Makes sense. And there seems to be a ton of investment in making the data better. Mm-hmm. And funnily enough, nobody talking about how to make the data better in the compensation side.
Yeah, no, that's you do compensation if you've offended somebody and they say, okay, you can't be an accounts receivable anymore. We're going to send you over to bonuses and commissions until you realize you've made a terrible mistake in your life. And nobody loves that world. I mean, the people who do it drink too much and smoke too much and beat up on their cats at home. I mean, it's a horrible life. And part of it is because the data sucks.
So dear accounting department, lower your health insurance your health insurance costs by making your compensation people's lives better.
It's a win-win.
Bringing in the right solution. That is great. Thank you so much for your time. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you for having me. Really enjoyed it.
I look forward to hear how this thing grows, and when you have a couple of carriers actually using it, I'd love to hear some stories of the success you've had with them and how it's changed their lives, even if you can't say the names.
Right. No, I will continue to bother you if you will let me. So this is great.
Thank you.